There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment, and here we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. We've got a great guest for you today. We're looking forward to it. But first, Brichelle is here. How are you, Brichelle?
I'm doing amazing. It's a great start of a new year. And for us, it feels like the first day of the new year this week. So I'm very, very happy to be here. And we have waited for the show that we are having with this guest. Her name is Alyssa Thorne. She's got a website that is currently under construction a little bit. So whether you check that out now or later, hopefully you find what you're looking for, which is carlyathorne.com. But welcome, Carly. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm very looking forward to this conversation.
It's going to be a great one. And we're looking forward, like I said, we're looking forward to it. So, Carly, I got to ask you, you are tell me.
What am I? That is a good question. No, I'm a conscious business coach, but I'm also a life coach for people that are going through transformations or are stuck at a crossroads and need to get to the other side. They're going through a divorce, it's, death, something like that. Then the other side of it is I do a lot of business consulting, and it's all about conscious business. How do you bring into a business consciousness, positivity, how to get people to interplay with one another without being mean. You know how it is. People can be really aggressive in offices.
Yeah, and one of my favorite singers of all time, Taylor Swift, says, "Why'd you have to be so mean?"
Exactly. There's no need for that.
And it's great to talk to you because, by the way, your business model is great because I don't know about you, but everybody's in transition of some kind or another, and it's not going to be the only one they ever face in their life. It's going to be continuing and continuous in transition. And so it's always good, and we love coaches, by the way. We both have had to have coaches, and Brichelle's going to have another one here soon, I think. Aren't you, Brichelle?
Yes,
well, I think
yes.
It's important that everybody has a coach. Everyone needs a life coach, a mentor. I don't care if it's your therapist. I don't care who it is, but we all need someone to talk to. We all need someone to unload to, someone to bounce ideas off of. It's important.
Yeah, and it really should be somebody that's not a family member or close friend because I don't know if you know this, but they don't always tell the truth.
They're afraid to hurt our feelings, so they don't tell us the truth. And the reality is we all need truth. And that's one of the conversations about, I have one of my programs is passionate communications. How do we communicate with passion in a way that someone else can hear it? How to give feedback where someone can actually hear it. And the biggest one is when we use the word but. If I say I love you, but what are you expecting?
Something negative.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But if I say I love you right, it's a lot softer, and people aren't expecting to be like elbowed, if you will. So neurolinguistics is a really great tool for communications, and especially in business, and how to use our words in a way they're impactful yet can be heard without feeling they're being attacked.
We've talked a great deal about neuro-linguistic programming, and I would love for you to describe, for those that have heard the term but are not really quite sure exactly what in the heck it is, if you could be so kind as to kind of give us a definition and a description of it.
So neurolinguistic they call it either programming or reprogramming, because in reality is you are reprogramming, is basically how to take words and exchange words. It's just literally all playing with words. And it also is how we say things. It's also about body language. If you're like this with somebody, what do you think that person's thinking, right? They're thinking you're closed off. versus if your arms are open and down and your heart is open, then you're more open and willing to receive information. So it's all about body language and literally listening to the words you're using and how to give feedback in a way that someone can hear it. And a lot of that is twisting of words, buts instead of ands. And I've said buts on when I've been interviewed before, but I immediately in that moment say and. I've made myself so aware of that word that if I say it, doesn't matter where it is, even if I'm on like on the show right now, I would immediately say the word and. So a lot of neurolinguistic programming is literally, that's what it is. It's about body language. It's about how you use your words. It's how you communicate with people. And then there's also things, it's actually a very large conversation. So this is just an abbreviated version. It's also the way you would sit. How do you sit when you're interviewing someone? Do you sit straight across or do you sit one person here and one person on the side? That is more intermingling than if you're across from each other, it's more confrontational. So it's all about angles, positioning, wording, body language.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on it. I hadn't, because I've conducted a ton of interviews in my management career, and the only time I was side by side with the guy was when we were at the bar and he was interviewing me there. Not sure why he was interviewing me at the bar, but that's where he called it his living room at the time.
Well, there you go.
Yep. Well, and it reminds me, Carly, would you agree that it's changing the inner dialogue and changing your perspective on things, so naturally it changes what's around you in a way, and how you decide to communicate?
It does, because if someone's directly across from you, it does tend to be more confrontational. And again, you're looking at the person's arms. How are they having the arms? Did they have their fists closed? Their hands are open on the table versus closed on the table. And literally having the position of kitty corner, like, so one person's at the head of the table, if you will, and then right next to you on the side of the table. That conversation is a lot more softer and a lot more entertained than it is when you're like really, really far from someone or directly across from someone. And it does, you feel it. Look, bottom line, it's all energy. Even though people don't like to hear the word energy, they don't like the woo-woo of spirituality, whatever, however you want to go with it. The reality is it's energy. People can sense your energy. They can sense when you're tense, when you're angry, when you're mad. And they can tell right away when you're positive and happy.
Well, it's interesting because I've done a lot of interviews and I've always had to spend the first part of the interview getting them to relax and calm down, because there's another song by Taylor Swift, because what they do, what ends up happening is they're nervous, of course, because they're coming into this interview and you've got their resume in front of you and you're going to ask all kinds of questions, and they are nervous because they want to do well, but they don't know. So I always spent the first part of the interview talking to them about stuff that was totally unrelated to work and just trying to get to know them as a human being and see if they laugh at my jokes. They always did better in the interview if they laughed at my jokes, by the way.
You have that bubbly personality. I could tell that right away. So that's a good thing. And having that now, but here's the funny part. Your over personality of being very bubbly can also push someone back.
I know, I do that to my children all the time.
So it's kind of like, you need to have, if it's a guest like me who's really bubbly too, it's not going to be an issue. But if someone that's, okay, here we go into archetypes and it also goes into neurolinguistics and whatever. If someone's auditory, kinesthetic, audio, digital, or visual, how they learn or how they process also goes into how you play with them.
That's really true, because there have been times when I will be doing an interview with somebody and I can't get them to say anything. It's like, yes, no, and maybe. And
that's an introvert. And that's also probably someone that's an AD, an audio digital person, is someone you'll ask them a question and you can literally look at their eyes. Their eyes will go up to retrieve the answer and then come back to you. So there's a delay. So it seems like they're really slow, and it's not. It's because they process very differently. And people that are kinesthetic are the people like you're talking about, where it's yay, no, because kinesthetics are very slow people. They're just, it's kind of like they live with no time. There's no time. They don't have a watch on, they don't tend to wear watches. But kinesthetic people, and that's why I try and tell people when they teach or they talk the way we're talking, if we talk at this speed the whole interview, we're going to tune out all the other rest of the categories, right? But if we go a little happy, and then we go to a little storytelling that's smoother, then we bring in the kinesthetics and the auditory, and so you have to learn that there's various types of audiences, and if you want to catch them all, you can't have the interview be the same thing the whole way through, because you lose a population.
We are not capable, are we, Rochelle, of doing the same thing all the way through? It just doesn't work for us.
Well, no, that's not true. I think how we were talking about energy, Carly, there's so much you can always say, right? We talk about communication, and something I've learned recently is if somebody isn't understanding what you are communicating, you're really kind of just wasting your words. And it makes me think, did it start with you having awareness in yourself and recognizing how much people lacked that in themselves that kind of started you on this journey, or what was it?
It was about my own self-development. I'm a very medically complex patient, and I've had 64 surgeries, and it's a whole story. Anyways, so because of that, I took my time of when I was recovering and all the different recoveries, took the time to dive into self-development. I took all of T. Harv Eker courses. I did rope courses. I did all my linguistic stuff I did with Christopher Howard. I literally dove into self-development for myself. I needed to, and I also dived into a plethora of medical, because I needed to understand what was going on. So I could literally talk to a doctor peer to peer at this point. That whole conversation for me was literally about me wanting to be a better person and transform some of my habits. And the more I studied linguistics and psychology and all that stuff, you literally start tapping into consciousness and people and energy.
Mm-hmm.
Carly, when you were counting up the number of surgeries that you had, did you forget any, and then you had to go back and do the number?
Well, you would not believe that every time I go to a doctor's office, and this is another thing I teach, is advocating for oneself. I walk in with 3 sheets typed. Here's my surgery list. Here's my medication list. Here's my medical history list. And I even have one for the anesthesiologist, because I have post-traumatic stress disorder from all the surgeries. And so you can't just start doing stuff to me when I'm awake. You can't just start strapping me down and, I start freaking out. But the point is, there is no point. The point is, you do lose count, but because I have that sheet, I don't lose count, because I have to constantly update that sheet. Like I just had 2 surgeries. And so now I got to update the 2 surgeries on the list. And I have another one coming up on February 2nd. So then I got to update it again. So it's just part of life. It's another day, and it's just another day.
I know. I've had my share of surgeries too. Rochelle, not so many, but she's had a few, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had maybe 2 or 3 in my life, but I hear of these stories where people are like, how you just said, to advocate for yourself and to have that knowledge so that you don't go in blinded. And then not to say that Western medicine isn't something we need, of course, but also to understand different angles, because each doctor you work with, I'm guessing it's like, okay, here's my situation. This is my past. This is what's going on. Because every time you kind of have to handle it as a new thing, right?
Right. And the other thing I try and teach people too is, look at Western medicine, as bad in the politics and the money and all the things that are bad about it. If you break a bone, they can fix it, right? At Eastern methodologies, flower essences, herbiology, acupuncture, acupressure, Reiki, integrated energy therapy, and all those things, they also serve a purpose. They calm your energy system down. They do clear out some of the energy, but again, you have to do it with people. If you're getting someone to do energy work on you, you need to see that they know how to clear energy, because otherwise you're just getting the energy from the person that she just worked on. It's like going to a massage parlor, the ones where there's just person after person after person after person. Well, however,
Yep.
when you're getting massaged, they're actually releasing energy, the dark energy. I mean, all your gunk, if you will. And then next thing you know, someone else is slapped on that table. Well, that energy is still on that table, unless they know how to clear, whether it be candles, whether it be sage, whether it be tinchas, which are small little symbols from mostly Japan and China. High sound pitch vibratory will clear a space. So that's the other thing you have to be cognizant of. You have to really, almost in a weird way, I call vetting. When I'm going to interview somebody or I'm going to go to some place, I do my vetting. I go dig a little bit. I do look at the website and look at references, because that way you're not walking in blind. And a thing that you said that it's very important, when you're having surgery, when you're coming out of surgery and the doctor comes by and sees you for like a second or two, you don't remember any of that conversation because you're drugged. So I always tell people, if it's something that's an important surgery, you make sure you have somebody there. If you're in the hospital and you need pain meds or antibiotics, you have your phone and you set timers. Because if you get behind pain, you can't catch up. And the nurses are busy. Yep. They don't come when you ring the damn bell. It takes them forever to get to you. So you literally do have to advocate for yourself.
Yep.
Yep. Well, you know, I always played a game when I had a surgery to see if I could stay awake. Haven't made it yet. And the last anesthesiologist, he came in, he walked into the room, and I said, "Is your mom and dad here? Do they know that you're here?" Because he was a very young looking man. Of course, I'm a little older now, so everybody looks young. But by the way, we're talking with Carly Alyssa Thorne, and that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, Carly Alyssa Thorne, it is.
Yay! See, I have a disability with.
No. You stop it. You don't have that, because last week you did phenomenal. So don't tell yourself that.
Okay, I'll do.
Well, I'll make it simple for you. We all have disabilities.
There you go.
We all do. So It's just a matter of honoring your own and getting the tools you need to walk through life. You know, I have ADHD, and because of the way my mom was pregnant, she had congenital rubella syndrome. I have a slight autism from that, and I don't see. I'm blind at night. That's the 64 surgeries is from that. Congenital rubella syndrome affects all your organs, all your skin, and all your bones. And when your mom is pregnant and contracts during measles, they tell you to abort the baby, because babies are born without limbs and deformed. And I came out with a ton of other issues. But so we all have disabilities. I mean, it's just a matter of learning to accept them, learning how to deal with them, and then finding tools. But it's up to us to get those tools.
Yes. And Carly, we need to take a break, but when we come back, I want to add, and also we have a special guest that we want to introduce to you. Let's take a break, and then I'll remember what the question was, which apparently is a disability of mine. And Rochelle, take us out.
Yes, well, stay with us, everybody. If you're tuned in, if you're not, then come and join us. While we're on this quick break, join Carly and all of her information at carlyathorne.com, and we'll be right back.
Here are some points to ponder from Positive Talk Radio. You know, some say leadership is about getting the work done, about pushing forward, no matter the cost. But what's the cost of a team with no purpose? What if a single act of support, a single moment of genuine grit could change everything? What if leadership was a catalyst? Because true leadership isn't about being in control. It's about empowering others to find their purpose. It's about leading with passion and igniting the fire in everyone around you, creating a culture of teamwork and common purpose. A true leader finds this culture by enthusiastic purpose and team development, making each team member feel empowered to create, improve, and execute their tasks with genuine passion and a strong belief in the company's mission and focus. In other words, lead with purpose. to Positive Talk, and my name is Kevin. Brachelle's right there, and Carly is right in the middle. If you're watching, if you're not, it doesn't matter. If you're listening, it doesn't matter. But Carly, first of all, I got to ask you, what did you think of that? I wanted to play a commercial on leadership because I know that's one of your strengths, and that's what you do. Was I close?
Yeah, actually, I was like, we better start talking about leadership. I just saw that clip. Yeah, one of my courses is conscious business collaborations, because a lot of people don't realize that life isn't an I, it's a we. And even in life coaching, you can give all the tools in the world to somebody. If they're not willing to co-create with you, it's not going to work. It's the same thing with business. If you really want to have business that is a business that is it's doing well, you have to be willing to collaborate with others. However, in order to collaborate with others, you need to be willing to be open and be open to change. And most people are afraid of change, but change is growth, which is the thing that we need. So it's a very interesting conversation in conscious leadership. And most of the time you have leaders, it's all about them. It's I, do this, do this, do this. And a good leader will know one of these 3 little tips that are the greatest in the world is: 1, delete it. If it no longer serves you, delete it from your list. Delegation. You don't have to be the sole king in your kingdom. Delegate the things that you know others can do better than you, right? That's just so important. So it's delete it, and then it's delegate it. And I'm totally going blank on the third one right now.
Well, I'll tell you what, while you're coming up with the third one, we've got a gentleman who is building a company that is designed to help people. His name is Samuel. He's in Kenya.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And say hello to him, Brachelle.
Hi, Samuel. We were just talking earlier this morning, and he's really building on what he's doing. He says, Happy New Year, Brother Kevin, Sister Brachelle, and guest Carly, Alyssa, watching you live from Restoring Hope Center based in the Kibera slums of Nairobi, Kenya. This is our favorite program, Positive Talk Radio. Thanks for highlighting our weekly feeding program to the world, and God bless Team Positive Talk Radio Show and Sister Brachelle. And I have to tell you, okay, first of all, Samuel also says, very inspirational story, and that's exactly where I'm trying to go with this, is the inspiration of it. Kevin, do you have another question, or may I take us?
You may run with it.
Okay. Well, Carly, I'm thinking, because we were talking about, accepting your disabilities or whatever things you may struggle at in times. I don't think anything's necessarily a disability, but when you're working with these people specifically in leadership and having them change their perspective on themselves, let alone their world, how is it exactly that you help people pull from seeing their strengths and their purpose, maybe sometimes in the things that they thought were their disability? Because you had just said, me and Kevin have talked about this a lot recently, is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. But at a point, what they see in the water maybe is what changes things. So I'm curious how you pull that out of people and help them see those things in themselves.
Well, I'm a multi-sensory muse. I use multi-sensory a lot. And if you actually have someone, one of this multi-sensory exercises I have them do first is literally write out their positives and write out some of their difficulties or not strengths. Mm-hmm. And not only do I have them write out, when you're writing out, the muscles in your hand is creating a certain physiology in your body. Then I ask them to read it to themselves, read that list to themselves. Then I ask them to read it out loud. Because when you read it out loud, it's a very different story. They're like, oh, wow, I don't do that. Or maybe, oh, yes, I do that. It's a very important tool to help them. That's just one little aspect. And then I dive into archetypes, because you can't build a business. You can't take the leader and build their business unless you know who they really are at the core. Ask them to write out their belief systems. What are your beliefs? What are your deal breakers? So you really need to have these tools in place before you can start to build. And literally, once you start doing that and they start seeing things on paper and they start hearing them, out loud and hearing them to themselves, they literally start having aha moments. And then we dive into those aha moments. And then we start building from there.
Do you, Carly, do you have anybody that comes to you and you lay out this program and they say, I have no earthly idea what you're talking about?
Yes. Okay, here's the thing. There's spirituality, and then there's the woo-woo spirituality, which people are like, don't even talk to me about that. That's just woo-woo. I can teach the chakra system without telling you what the name of the chakras are, which way they spin, if they're male or female, blah, 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 blah. The analogy I give them is very simple. Thoughts come from somewhere. They come into your crown chakra. Then you start to think about it. That's your third eye. Then you start to speak about it. That's your throat chakra. Then you start to get passionate about the idea. That's your heart chakra. Now, then you go into your solar plexus, which is your networking tool. All of a sudden, people will start asking you questions about the idea that you have, and they'll be like, huh? What? They don't realize they're broadcasting what the idea or what they want to create. And the next chakra, which is the root chakra, is actually what I call the seed of creation or abortion. So you either are going to create the idea that you want to do, or you're going to abort it. But it's simple. Think it, speak it, get passionate about it, network about it, create it or not. So I can reach people through spirituality without having to dive into that. It's a heart chakra and the color's green and it spins this way. And I don't need to go into all that. Yeah. I can teach spirituality in a way. I can tell a lawyer who's now here's the other thing. That's why it's so important to know about archetypes about the person, because if you don't know the archetype, you won't know how to talk to them. If you're talking to a lawyer who's AD mostly, they're really audio digital people. You have to be ready to have a conversation where you have to sit there and pause and wait and not interrupt. It's like, when someone asks you a question, you're already formulating an answer in your mind. So you're not even listening anymore. It's the ability to stop that, to be in the moment, in that presence. And I can listen to Kevin say something. And of course, occasionally we all talk over each other. It happens. We laugh, we giggle. Oh, that's right. something like that. But the majority, I just did it. And it's just very important to have that pause so that you can actually let someone communicate and sit back and take it in. And then you go from there. But it's a building process. It's not like just throwing everything at them. The old saying, you don't throw the baby in the bathwater out, right? Yep. You need to keep what's good and then deal with what's not and give them the tools to deal with what is not.
Yeah.
We just got a compliment, Rochelle. You guys are the Michael Jordan of positive talk.
Love Michael Jordan. Tell him we said hi. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. What a brilliant person.
Indeed. Well,
I know. Me and Carly will be there.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. Because I have found when talking to somebody or interviewing with somebody, sometimes an intentional pause helps them, rather than trying to do what we need to do on radio, which is fill the airspace so that there's no, because it makes the producers and the editors crazy if they see a dead spot in a radio show. But in a interview or really talking to somebody on a deep level, you say what you need to say, and then you wait, and you let them formulate and figure out what they need to say back. And sometimes that takes a couple of minutes.
And it is. We're processing. As you were talking, I'm processing what you're saying. That takes a beat for me to process that. It's not like I instantaneously gravitated to the whole conversation of what you said. I took key elements out of that little bleep that you said, and that's what stuck with me. Right? Because you're still processing. You're not getting the entire conversation in an instant. People think they are, but they really aren't. They'll gravitate to one or two words that stick out and mean something to them.
Yep. And sometimes those words misconvey the intention of what you're actually trying to say, because they get stuck on a word, and it's like, well, they said Michael Jordan. What does that mean? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Rochelle?
Yes, I know we need to take our halftime break. Samuel says, really, Brother Kevin and Sister Rochelle, you host very inspirational guests with positive minds. You're doing great work. And thank goodness for you being here, Carly, after the wazoo of 60 something surgeries and what you've got coming up. The energy that lives inside of you keeps you whole. But when we come back from this break, I want to push on that, because not just out loud and with our physical do we do that, but we do it in our own minds with ourselves. So I'm curious how you help that pause be created within before it can be through the daily contraptions of what we experience. So, Kevin, if we could take a halftime break, and then I'd love to hear what Carly has to say.
And we'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Are you looking for your daily dose of inspiration? Stay connected to all your favorite shows, music, and news with the Brushwood Media Network app. From Positive Talk Radio to Greatest Vibes Unplugged and so many more uplifting voices around the world, everything you need is right in one place. It's easy to use, too. Always available and designed to keep you inspired 24 hours a day. Go to brushwoodmedianetwork.com and download the app, and you will always have Brushwood Media available on your smartphone. Download it now and make inspiration and music and conversation part of your everyday. Welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald, and Rochelle is right there. And our guest today, I'm telling you what, she's a really smart person, Carly Alyssa Thorne. And she not only has she had the trials and tribulations of life, which I tend to call a grand adventure. And can I give you a real quick example? Would be,
of course,
this last spring, because I'm not as young as I used to be and just not as fast-footed, I fell and broke my wrist. And so I got to go to the emergency room. You notice the word, the play on words is I had to go. I didn't have to go, but I got to go. And I got to call the fire department. I got to ride in an ambulance. That was kind of cool. And then I went and they put a plate in my arm, and there were 20 people that were in the operating room, and that was a new experience and stuff. So if you correct me if I'm wrong, but if you look at it in a certain way, it's a grand adventure. Everything that we do in life and that happens to us is a grand adventure. Some of the adventures are a little bit more painful than others. That hurt like hell, by the way. And I know you've been through a bunch of surgery. Do you consider life to be a grand adventure?
It is a grand adventure. I think some things are a little more traumatic than others, like sexual, verbal, physical abuse. And this is the one thing I teach people about that, because I also grew up with that, is just because you forgive someone doesn't mean you're condoning the act. You're forgiving the person so that you can move on and not have hatred in your heart and not live in that hatred and that fear and that panic and whatnot. You have to be willing to have forgiveness for the other person, but it's so important, because a lot of people, when you tell them that you have to forgive, they're like, screw you. Why am I going to forgive that A person?
Yep.
They raped me. Why am I going to forgive them? And you have to explain to them, over and over again. It's like, it's not that you're forgiving him in the way you're thinking you're forgiving him. You're forgiving him so that you cannot have a string tied to them and have those emotions constantly tied to that person, and that you can move on and you can go and learn tools to then live a better journey.
And Rochelle, we've talked about that very thing in the past. Would you like to expand upon that? Because Carly's absolutely right. You don't forgive somebody because you're forgiving them. You're releasing yourself to then go and live a better life, because you can't do anything about what happened yesterday. Until we figure out some ways to go back in the future, we can't fix yesterday, but we can fix today and tomorrow. Am I right, Rochelle?
Yeah, and to have those experiences be a lesson. It doesn't have to be all the other things, all the titles, like you say, we play with words and we decide, we put labels and titles on things. And that string, I love that you use that analogy, because me and Kevin talk about how we're all connected, we're all a web. You can choose what you're connected to. And correct me if I'm wrong, but as I'm hearing you talk about this, I'm feeling like the more that you have all these strings with other people, the less connected you are to yourself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. You have nothing left. You've basically given yourself away to 1,000 people, if you will.
Yeah.
Instead of, okay, so one of the things I do when I first wake up in the morning before I go to bed is I say, cutting cords with all beings and entities in all directions of time. And that way, it basically means I'm cutting away whatever ties I have with them at that moment. It doesn't mean like if you cut cords and you have a loved one in there that you're not connected to them anymore. It just means whatever drama, whatever the nasty stuff is, you're cutting the cords for the day. And the reason why I do it in the morning too, after I've slept all night, because when we sleep at night, whether you believe it or not, we travel. You know,
Yes,
when we're sleeping in our dreams, we travel the astral planes. And so you can bring stuff back from there too. So that's why I say in the morning as well, cutting all cords with all beings and entities in all directions of time. And I say all directions of time because, okay, I'll get into a spirituality here. We live on multiple planes. As we are here, we're here. What you do in another plane affects what's going on right now. So
I know. And
go ahead.
Carly, I want Rochelle and you to talk about that for just a moment, because she has dreams. But before we go do that, I want to make sure everybody's aware. If you're uncomfortable with the term energy, well, Einstein proved it. Tesla proved it. They now have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are energetic beings in a physical body. And also we have an energy which can be described as your soul. And when you're sleeping at night, your soul never sleeps. It doesn't need to sleep because it's pure energy. So rather than sit around and twiddle their thumbs and do nothing for hours on end while you're snoring and saying, you really need to quit that snoring, that's really annoying, they tend to leave and go have adventures that are different than, and that's partially where, and correct me if you said correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, am I right in that? Because we're never wrong. We may be misinformed sometimes, but we're not wrong. So am I right in saying that sometimes the dreams that we have are based upon, especially the really vivid ones, are based upon what our soul is experiencing somewhere else at the moment that we are sleeping?
It is. And sometimes another thing I say to myself before I go to bed, I'll say 10 times in a row, I'll remember my dreams. I'll remember my dreams. I'll remember my dreams. Because a lot of times, we're in a dream and we suddenly wake up and then the dream's gone. You have to find a way to keep the dream. So then that way you can kind of analyze it and go, oh, that's interesting. I recognize that person in the dream. I wonder why that person was in my dream tonight. And then you might know the next day you hear from that person. You haven't heard from them in 10 years. It's just like we are all interconnected. And that's why, like, even when I did my social media, I had a business called Social We Media, Social We, because we are our we culture. You cannot do something just by yourself. You can. It's not that you can't do everything by yourself. You're going to be very lonely, very unhappy. And I don't know. Okay, I shouldn't say that, because there are people that are really successful on our alone, but the reality is they still have people that help them get there. So that's why I say it's a collaboration. That's why by the way, all of my courses are trilogy phrases: conscious business collaborations, compassionate, passionate communications, trilogy, because the triangle is one of the highest power signals, if you will, or if you're into religion, the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. And that's a conversation I always tell when I'm working with people too, is how far down the rabbit hole are you willing to go? Dharma, karma, fate, like, do you believe that you're going to die when it's just your time to die? Or, do you understand that you could just walk across the street and get hit? Or are there people that live in fear all year long. Oh my God, I can't do this because this might happen. If I do this, I might get a cold. If I do this, I might get, hit by a car. If I do this, if I do that, it's just like endless ad nauseum conversation about what if. Forget the what if. It is what it is. And work with what that is. Like,
exactly. And it's, I gotta tell you, Carla, it's so infuriating. Last night, I had this moment in time and I had this dream, and I had taken the word hope and I had developed an acronym for it that was brilliant, simply brilliant. I wake up this morning, and what was that again? And I completely lost it, because that came from the divine, and it was like, I want you to remember this and that, and then I totally forgot it because I was dreaming. Brachelle, you have dreams that you would just as soon forget, don't you?
Yeah. Yes, I'm one of those people, Carly. It's like, I wouldn't call them dreams. I wouldn't even call them nightmares. It's like, a lot of people say the night terrors, because there is no way to fully explain unless you've experienced. My soul goes to other places and experiences other things. I see creatures and people, and even some of the places I start to recognize. So when I'm in that dream, I feel like I already know what's going on. I've already been here before. But like Kevin was saying, I've been hearing a lot recently how people are like, I want to remember my dreams. Does that, like with remembering it and feeling it and almost not being able to separate reality from your dreams, like me, and then having Kevin where it's like, oh my gosh, if I could just remember something that can help me make sense of it, do those things tie together, or are they completely opposite for a reason?
No, they're tied together. One of the things I always tell is, as a tool, keep a notebook by your bed, a notebook and a pen, like so close near your pillow, so that if you suddenly wake up and you're in a terror, or you had a wonderful phrase for hope, you could jot it down. Now,
and I really did.
About your dreams is, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? Because there are entities, there are reptilians. There's gray reptilians, and there's not so happy reptilians. And that's like a whole conversation that we shouldn't even have here, because it's a very long, complicated conversation.
We'll talk about it later, because I want to go down that hole.
Once you start dealing, when you start seeing like devilish beings and creatures and stuff like that, that sometimes means that there's some trauma going on, or some trauma you're trying to release, or something has happened in the past and that trauma starts kind of lingering on. And then dark entities enter when you're at your weakest. So when you're at your weakest point, that's when dark entities start attacking you. And there are ways of shielding yourself. One of them is cutting cords with all beings and entities in all directions at a time. The other one is, there's different crystals you can use in your room. I listen to sound vibratory music all night long. I do not sleep ever without sound vibratory music. I have a playlist, and it just loops all night. And then I'll switch to a frequency one. And again, these are all spiritual topics, yet those spiritual topics don't have to enter other topics. It just depends on who you're dealing with. Is that person open to hearing about other topics, or are you dealing with someone who is just literally in a box, that they believe, this is the way things are, and that's what their bubble is? And you can throw things at them and see if they're willing to jiggle a little. And if you see they're not willing to jiggle at all, it may not be a good fit.
I feel sorry for those people that are convinced that the world is in a little box, and that there's nothing out there new or different, or that if they change who they are and what they believe and choose something different, some people don't even believe that that's even possible, to choose something different and have it actually happen. Brachelle?
And I think it's a little bit of confusion too, because if your mind can't wrap around something that doesn't make sense, naturally as a human, you're going to want to push away from that. And I know we need to take another quick break, but Carly, what is it like when you work with that person that's in that box, and there's that one teeny tiny little things that start making things move? It creates that jiggle, and then they maybe see that everything that they thought before was different or could be, depending on how they choose to see it. Like, what does it make you feel, and what are the reactions you get from them? Because sometimes it's terrifying.
Yeah, I'm an intuit, and I can feel things viscerally of other people. It's really weird because my eyes are really bad. I was born with cataracts. I'm blind at night. I have macular degeneration. So in a weird way, on this plane, I'm blind in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So what has kicked in for me is I feel things on a visceral level. I can feel energies very intensely.
Yeah.
And so I've had to learn ways to protect myself. And I used to be heavier, and that tends to be very common. People that are healers tend to carry a little weight in their belly. And that water actually is to buffer, and also so that you can hear the frequencies. When we get talked to, it's in frequencies, you kind of have to interpret it. And if there's a lot of noise around it, you're not going to get the message. But when you're in with dealing with people that finally see a little peak or a window, you just go at that point gently. You don't want to burst them open, because then they're literally going to go into shock. You want to go, oh wow, I see the jiggling a little bit. Oh, okay, that means that I have ways of getting in there. So so when I feel a little jiggle, it actually makes me happy, because that means there's something I can work with.
Yeah.
Well, and we need to take our last break, and I've got a real quick point to ponder to play. But Carly, Alyssa Thorne is with us. And when we come back, Carly, I would like for you to kind of energetically undress Rochelle a little bit and see what her energy is. I just scared her, I think. But would that, can we do it? Would that be okay? Just to
I can tell you what you are right now, but I won't.
Kevin's a strong one.
We'll be right back. Everybody stay right where you are. Thank you very much. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. A tiny seed was buried in the dirt, covered in darkness, forgotten by the world. But within that darkness, it grew roots, then sprouted into something beautiful. The seasons of struggle you face are not endings. They're beginnings. Trust that growth is happening, even when you cannot see it. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope live. Welcome back to Positive Talk. I think I scared her because Rochelle has stepped out for a moment, but Carly, Alyssa Thorne is with us. And when we went into the break, Carly, I got to ask you, you said that you could read my energy right now.
I could. So most people don't know that fairy tales are actually real. They think fairy tales are false. You're in what we call the oaf kingdom. So, and there's like fairies and pixies, and then there's elves, and then there's just different categories. And in the whole realm of dwarfs and oafs, they tend to be pranksters. They tend to, the way you talk is very playful. They're very playful beings. So you're between like an oaf, because you're not really a dwarf, because you're not small enough to be a dwarf, but you have characteristics of theirs as well. But that energy of the oaf and the playfulness and the, so that's where the impishness. Okay. That also is part of elves with their ears. They're also very playful. So you're in that archetype area.
I've been called an imp many, many times in the course of my life, and it's really interesting when you are aware of the energy, and it's really is interesting how she came back, and did I scare you?
No, not quite. Not yet.
Well, she called me. She just told me that I'm an ulf or an elf or something like that.
He's in the archetype of elves, dwarves, and oafs. Oafs, they eat like this, and they're big and they're playful, but it's the playful energy, that prankster energy.
Yeah, actually, Carly, that's a really good representation in the Disney movie Frozen, how they have those trolls that are healing and they can be happy, but that is so totally Kevin.
Yeah. And so that's why I say he's impish, oafish. And I only say oaf because he's big.
Yes.
Just he's a big personality, and those tend to be more oaf-like, but we're never just one. We're usually one, and then we have an underlinging, so that's why I say he has the energies also of an elf, because elves are also very pranksters. You, my darling, are a star.
What does that mean?
So stars are very interesting people. Stars tend to have almondish eyes. And by the way, they all have characteristics and features. Like an elf, you can literally, you get to the point where you've learned archetypes so well, you can walk down the street and tell who's who and what. And, you'll see a pointy ear, that's an elf. Pixies and nymphs tend to be really tiny size 0 females that have tiny little squeaky voices, and they tend to have blonde hair. Don't know why. Stars have almondish eyes and have more like a round, elongish face like you do. But it's not just that. It's like, you don't feel like you belong. Like, you don't feel like you belong here. It's like, why can't I go home?
Yep.
Can I go home now, please? Like, I don't want to be here anymore. So you're a star. Stars just want to go back home. They don't want to be here anymore. And then there's another category of walk-ins, where at some point in someone's life, you walk out and another person walks in. And then all of a sudden family members are like, who the hell are you? Like, I don't know who you are. People have changed their names drastically, totally different personality. That's a walk-in. But yeah, you're a star. You're like a straight star. You have some angel features, and angels tend to be people are like the teachers, the healers. They really care deeply about people. You have a little bit of angel, but you have predominantly star.
She's an angel star.
Yep.
Or star angel. And
I'm what they call a dabbler. Because I'm a healer, I have to be able to conduit all the energies. So I'm a little bit of all of them. And I have to be, so that I can understand what's going on.
Well, and that's part of your work, because you need to understand all the archetypes, and you need to understand where the energy's coming from, and all of those things, and the chakras, and it's the thing is, it's all connected. And
it is.
And we are and speaking of being all connected, we've got another comment from the Kyberia Restoring Hope Center.
Hi, everybody. They say hello, Kevin Burchell and Dr. Carly Thorne. Thanks for Positive Talk Radio for hosting her. She's inspired us a lot. God bless Positive Talk Radio for hosting coaches and visionary speakers. Kyberia Restoring Hope Center is tuned in, and that leads into exactly what I was thinking, because Carly, when somebody comes to you and starts working with you to try to figure out who exactly am I and what am I capable of, how do you work with them, and what is the best way to get in contact with you? I know you are on so many platforms.
The easiest way is literally just to Google me, find a platform, and email me from there. Just Google Carly Alyssa Thorne, and I'll be all over the place. Or just go to carlyathorne.com and you can reach me through there. But I'm on every platform. And I'm extremely Googleable.
Okay, perfect.
It's not. When I work with people, I have them do a lot of writing at first, because like I said to you, when you write, you're just triggering a lot of mechanisms in your system. And then we start having conversations about everything they wrote, and reading out loud, and getting into all the multi-sensory work at first. And then they discover more and more of who they are, and they discover more and more of where they want to go. And once I know where they want to go, I can actually map out something. And that's why it's so important also to know about archetypes. For example, when I do kitchen makeovers or wellness makeovers, basically go into the kitchen or in a house, throw out, keep, donate. You build the office, the room, or the kitchen based around that person. If they're right-handed, I'm going to build the kitchen very differently than if they're left-handed. Okay, so a lot of people take archetypes and knowing archetypes and knowing what someone is for granted. And I'll tell you, having that knowledge really helps you map out a course for a person. Right-hand people are very different than left-handed people. Some are more creative, some are more analytical. And then that also goes into treatments as well. believe it or not, people that guys, it tends to be guys, so I say guys, and there are women that are like that as well, that love to be in dirt. They do really good with herbiology. Now, if it's a person that loves plants and water, they tend to do really good with flower essences. Now, someone that's audio digital and are literally analytical, they do really good with homeopathy, because A plus B equals C. And they do good with Western medicine too, because if I believe those radioactive isotopes are going to kill my prostate cancer, they believe it so.
Yeah.
You know, like if you look into sugar, give someone a sugar tablet and someone else not a sugar tablet. So having archetypes, I can't begin to tell you how incredibly important it is.
So you literally learn a person so you can match where their belief system is rooted.
Exactly.
Well,
she was paying attention.
Yeah, you have to get to the basics. You have to get to the core, because if you don't have the core of the person, you have to know what their belief systems are.
Yes.
You have to know if they're left-handed or right-handed. You have to know, do they have ADHD, if they have autism, if they're neurodivergent. I can't say the word right now because I'm,
neurodivergent. Yeah.
You have to know these things, because those people react differently to different things. So you have to know what you're working with. Otherwise, you can't help them. You're not doing them service if you don't know these things.
Right. Because
you steer them in the right direction.
Yes, then it allows them to accept themselves rather than use those labels against who they are. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Well, Carly, I'm so glad you exist.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, and the other thing is, it can become a superpower because you recognize who is actually what, and you can actually play into that so that you can communicate with the different archetypes better. Using their own understanding and gifts. Would that be true?
Yeah, it is. And a lot of people that are autistic and are neurodivergent and tend to be more introverted. There's two types, introverted and extroverted. The introverted, you may think they're just quiet. They are observing every little thing. I mean, literally, they're analyzing, just, almost mimicking in their minds everything that they're seeing. They're not just quietly. And there's even stories of kids that don't talk till they're 5 years old and they're talking full sentences. That's because that entire 5 years they were listening, looking, observing, and now they're playing out the story. Doesn't mean that they're dumb. Doesn't mean that they're, retarded. And I hate that word. It just means that they're introverted because they're literally taking everything in. That's their process of how to learn.
As we are
and I always tell people, you just don't judge people, because you never know what they're going through in that moment. And you never, and I always tell people, even though all these conversations that we're having, there's always someone somewhere that needed to hear exactly what you said.
Yep.
And they show up and don't know why they showed up.
Yep.
Because we connect to a face, we connect to a voice, we connect to body language. I talk with my hands a lot because I'm Italian. And I grew up in South America. So, I talk with my hands a lot. That's just the way it is. I'm very touchy-feely. I'm kinesthetic. And, I've learned how sometimes I have to sit on my hands.
And she's going to be right back because she...
No, it did the same thing to me, so I don't feel so lonely.
It hasn't been an interesting conversation.
No, it has. It makes you curious more on what there is that we don't see when we are so focused on ourselves. Because a lot of times now through my journey, I've been focusing in, but as I see outwards, it helps me allow what's around me and accept other people for who they are, because I understand myself. You probably went through that too, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, and the other thing is, you give people grace because of who they are, because of how you perceive them to be, and you don't hold it against them. Everybody's different. Everybody's got a different way of learning, a different way of communicating, and actually that's the wondrous diversity of the human condition. And so that makes it work for everybody if we are not judgmental and understand that we're all different, and we all learn a little bit differently. Go ahead.
Exactly what you're saying is like all the little, how she said the aha moments. I just had one of those, because when you understand yourself, you can accept other people without having to understand them. And that was big for me.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Yeah, and the wondrous diversity that we have with each other, we can actually enjoy the conversation.
Yeah.
Because it may be a different conversation that you would have ever had with anybody else, because they're their own unique individual. That's the thing about autistic kids, is that it's not that they're disabled. And she's back.
I don't know what, this is another energy thing. I kid you not. If I'm going to play, like if I walk into an electronics store, all the electronics go wacky.
Yeah, it's the energy that you possess that is all around you.
I was like talking, and all of a sudden it's like gone. I'm like,
yeah. No, Carly, I was just telling Kevin, I don't feel so alone because I can feel my vibration. It did the same thing to me, and that's why I was also gone for a moment. So everything's
wait a minute. Are you two telling me that my vibration is low because it didn't
you
happen
need to
me?
vibrate harder.
No, the universe knew to keep you because you had to keep the show running.
Well, that's okay. Fair enough.
Exactly.
Fair enough. And by the way, Carly, let's get your information out again, because you are sensational. And will you come back and talk to us some more?
Please.
Anytime. My name is Alyssa Thorne. You can reach me at carlyathorne.com or just Google Alyssa Thorne.
And this is a conversation that you need to, no, strike that. You don't need to do anything. But if you choose to, you can learn some things that you didn't even know existed that are within our realm, because we don't see 95% of what is actually around us.
Absolutely.
And don't let that stress you out. It's okay. Everything's going to be just fine.
And you have got people and you've got entities and stuff that are on the other side that are there on your behalf, that are making sure that you are having the time of your life. And that's what, at least for me, so I don't have those negative Nelly people that come bother me, because they know I'm not interested. And I'm, so you wait.
Your positivity, actually, if someone's negative, you're gonna repel them.
I do,
because they can't stand that positivity, and that's a beautiful thing. Actually, you don't have those type of people around you, and you don't want them anyway.
Several of
Maybe
them
that's
are
why I
relatives,
couldn't stand everything you said to me when I first started working with you. I remember he would tell me, Carly, things. I'm like, oh my God, this man, like whatever, just whatever. And then I started to absorb it. And for anybody who's listening, you deserve that. We say that at the end of every single show. It's frightening to stay in your comfort zone and maybe be able to know what will happen if you don't achieve those dreams. But instead of being afraid of the what ifs, open up to them, because the world is full of blessings right in front of your face all the time. And it takes one moment to choose to see them all. And Thank you, Carly, for being here to help people see themselves so that they can accept the world.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you having me.
And I'll tell you, Carly, I manifested her not too all that long ago. Isn't she sensational?
She is.
I'm learning a lot really fast.
That's all that matters, is that you're learning, right?
Yeah. She's in college 101 for life. And stuff. And so, Carly, Alyssa Thorne, thank you so much for being here. And you got to come back. And we've gone over time, so they're going to yell at me now. But that's okay. I deserve to be yelled at sometimes.
Yes.
Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great
Michelle,
day.
say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, Carly. Bye, everyone. We love you. Stay tuned for tomorrow.
Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got.